Hello and welcome back to RareRoo Crafts. I'm Sarah and today I thought I would come on and share with you how I've made this Mother's Day card. So it is a side stepper. Let's see if I can get that in the camera enough so that you can see. So that when it stands up, it's got this little sort of tent piece in the middle there that's lower than the main piece on the side here. And then obviously I've made a basket of flowers. Now the actual set itself, the card, is a tattered lace set that I picked up in a D-stash last year. But you can make side stepper cards without dies. There's loads and loads of tutorials on YouTube that show you how to go about making a side stepper without dies. So you can still make this card even if you don't have the stepper die. So to start with, I have been making flowers, as you can see off to the side here. Now on the first one, I've done sort of all peaches and I've done a few different ones. In this one, I decided to go with blues. So I've made this lovely little daisy, which is really pretty with the little leaf attached to it. I've made these really pretty blue ones. They almost look a bit sort of velvety. They're really pretty, they are. I've made some of these. They're really cute. And then I've done some various leaves. So I've done ones that look a bit like rose leaves, some of the ones that I put on the daisy. I've done some ferns, and I did these ones last night so that they had time to dry. They're all just die cuts that I've inked and given a bit of shape to. But these ones they look like little berry stems, and there's tons of them out there. There's tons and tons of different branded ones that have got these little, looks like berries on the end. So all I've done is I've die cut them, and then I've put a little blob of like liquid pearls. So these ones are the Nouveau drops, which they're all right. They've gone a little bit flat, those Nouveau drop ones. These ones are the actual liquid pearls, and these have stayed much more 3D. And then these ones are the Nouveau glitter drops, and again they're okay, but they have flattened out a little bit more than the liquid drops do. So I thought I would start by showing you how I made some of these flowers. So we'll start with the daisy, because that one's nice and simple. So I've done some bits to it already. So I've die cut 3 of one size and then 2 of the size down. And again, it doesn't need to be this exact die, just any die that looks similar, that's got lots and lots of sort of frondy bits on the edges. I don't know what the brands of any of these flower dies are. Some of them are unbranded, and others, I took all the packaging off. I take all the packaging off all my dies and I put them into CD sleeves, so unfortunately that means I then don't actually know what any of the branding is. So yeah, not sure, but it doesn't matter, like I say, as long as you've got quite a few little frondy bits on it, it'll work. So then all I've done is I've used weathered wood distress ink, and I've just gone just very lightly, just on the very, very tips, just to give a little bit of definition just to the tips. And on these ones I do it on both sides, because you can see both sides just because of the way in which you shape. I don't always ink the back sides of flowers. It depends if you'll see it once it's shaped and stuck down, which you won't with these ones. And then literally for this one, all I did was take a ball stylus, a reasonably big one, and I've just rubbed it all over and then gone round in a circle. And each one I've just made slightly more cupped than the one before. And then just with some white glue, literally just stack them on top of each other. And what you want to do is just make sure that they're slightly offset, so that you don't end up with all your petals facing in the, all your frondy bits facing in exactly the same direction, because that's what gives it that slightly more natural look. And then I found with the centre ones, it was easier to line up my 2 centre ones and then stick those into the centre of this, get it where I want it, and then just give that a bit of a press. I've also cut, this one came with a little centerpiece, which is just like a little perforated centre. All I did was same cardstock or sort of heavyweight paper stock that I cut the flower out of. I just coloured with an alcohol marker over it with a bit of lemon yellow, and then I just literally went around the edge with a little bit of fossilised amber distress ink, just so that it got a bit of two-tone. And then, if I can see my thing, I'm trying to find my wax pencil. I'm just going to hold on to that. Just put a little bit of glue on it. It's just a bit of, again, tacky glue. And I've got some little pots of fuzzy stuff. It's nail velvet, I think it's called. It's obviously for doing your nails with, but I find it really nice for giving that just slightly fuzzy centre that you'll quite often see on flowers, which is obviously the pollen bits where the bees go. And then a bit of glue in the centre, or even a bit of hot glue, and then just place that piece in the centre like that. Now, you could just do that with a plain circle punch. You don't have to have all the little holes in, particularly if you're going to put the flocking stuff over the top, because you don't really see it. So this, like I say, is just nail flocking that I've got off of AliExpress or eBay. I've got a few different colours. I've also got this stuff, which is for terrains. I got it from Hobbycraft. It's for model making, and they use it to base their terrains with when they're making, like, you know, train models or Warhammer type models. But I find it's really nice for the centre of flowers. So that was my little daisy one. Then these cuties, I've cut 2 of a larger size, and then this one is actually a size down. It's the size smaller. And then all I've done is, with a makeup applicator, an eyeshadow applicator, I've just gone in with a little bit of, I've used Distress Oxide in Faded Jeans. Again, it doesn't matter what you want to use. It's, you know, whatever you like, whatever colour scheme you're going for. And I've just put a little bit on and sort of out. You want it out a little bit so that you can see it, but I like to leave quite a bit of white near the edges. And then again, this is a nice easy one. I'm just going to turn it over, and again, with a reasonably large ball on the ball stylus to start with, I'm just going to rub down on each petal and on the centre of it, and then I'm going to come in with a smaller ball stylus. If you start with too small a ball stylus, it can be hard to get the petal moving. If you start with a larger one and then go to a smaller one, you've broken the fibres down a bit already, and it makes it just that little bit easier when you come in. And I'm just pulling 3 times down on that petal, and then I'm going to turn that over and press in the centre there. So I've now got the 2 larger ones, and then I've done exactly the same thing on the smaller one, but I haven't turned it over and pressed in the centre. I've left it cupped this way, and that's because I'm going to form like the little bud part. And all I'm going to do is, once I've cupped it up, if you push it together and then just put a little bit of glue in behind some of those petals, the sort of outer petals, and you can sort of have it as open or as closed as you want to have it. I liked to have mine sort of so that they were not completely closed. You can put like a little polystyrene ball or something in the centre to help you keep it shaped, but I don't bother. And then again, I'm going to glue these 2 pieces together, offsetting the petals, and that gives you that sort of fuller looking flower, and it makes this top layer cup upwards slightly, and that is what your bud is then going to sit into. So again, just a little bit of glue on there, and tuck that bud piece in down the bottom there, and fluff your petals up, and there you go. That's that one. So we got those ones, and then we've got this one, which is these ones. Now, I've already inked these because I inked them and then remembered that I was going to show and forgot. But I have got a spare one that I had cut. So with this one, I wanted to get that slightly sort of different two-toned look. So I started off with some tumbled glass, which is a lighter ink than the cardstock. And I just brushed a bit on those top edges. And the beauty about making flowers is you don't need to be super neat, because it doesn't really matter, because by the time you've shaped them all and that, you don't really see it. So there we go. I'm going to just dry that off a little bit, because I don't want my colours to mix, and I'm being impatient. Then I took some faded jeans and just went into the centre with that faded jeans. And then I've got some peeled paint, and I just did just a little bit of green just where that blue, where that faded jeans started to bleed out into the original colour of the paper. Once that was all then dry, I took the normal distress ink in the faded jeans, because you get a slightly different look because it's not chalky, so you get a more inky look with your original distress inks, and it is actually a bit darker. So I took that one and I just inked around the edges just with the inking tool, but make sure you wait until this piece has completely dried, because otherwise you end up with the oxide ink on your sponge for your distress inks, and it's not great for your distress inks. So then to shape these ones, again, nice and simple, I took quite a fine ball stylus, and that's because I'm wanting precision. Now, what you've got to be careful of is that you don't press too hard, because you can pierce the paper, particularly when you're just trying to sort of get those fibres loosened up a little bit. So being sort of quite gentle, I'm rubbing up and down in the centre and then off to each side. Now this die actually does have some very, very light lines that emboss into it when it cuts, but not very deep, and not deep enough for what I want. So I'm using them as a bit of a guide, but if they weren't there it wouldn't matter. I would still do the same thing. I'd just do 3 lines like that. So again, you don't need to have this exact die, just anything that is similar. So this is a 5-petal die. You could do the same thing with a 6-petal die. Obviously you'd get a slightly different look, but it wouldn't be tremendously different. Once I've gone all the way round, I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm flipping over to a slightly bigger ball stylus, not huge, but just slightly bigger. And just around the very, very tip of each of the petal, it's just like I'm drawing with some pressure around that top edge of that petal, and that's just going to change the cupping of the petal, so it will cup downwards just on those very, very edges, which is really pretty. It gives it that pretty look, like so. And once I've done that on all of them, I'm going to flip it back over, and once again I'm just going to pull down, not from right the way to the tip, just sort of probably about 2/3 of the way down that petal, and that just brings that shape up for you, and you've got that lovely sort of cupping around the top of the petal there. And then again, I'm just taking 2 layers. So on this flower it was 2 layers of the same size, and I've done a couple of big ones and a few small ones of this one. And then I am just going to there we go. Again, offsetting those petals so that you've got that slightly fuller look. And then, because this flower has got a little hole in it, I'm going to use a little silicone mat, and I'm just going to put a sort of domed glob of hot glue in the centre. And then I've got some more of that nail flocking, but this time it's in a sort of quite a bright limey green. But you don't get tons and tons stick to it. Now you could, if you wanted to, let this dry and then go back over with a bit of with a bit of tacky glue or something like that, and put another layer, because you do get a slightly sort of translucenty look. It almost looks like a jelly tot or something, but I quite like the look. I think it's quite subtle and pretty, so I'm going to leave mine with just one layer. The only other flowers that I thought I might do is, it's always nice when you're doing any sort of flower display to have some smaller flowers. I call them filler flowers. And then if you've got any little empty spaces where your big flowers sort of don't quite come together exactly, they don't meet together exactly, you can fill them in with these little tiny ones. So again, all I'm going to do with these is, you can start by putting a little tiny bit of yellow in the centre. I'm not going to bother, because I'm going to use nail flocking again, this time in yellow. And because these are just little filler flowers, I'm not going to bother. All I'm going to do is with that, not the tiniest, but the sort of medium size. This one is actually a nail dotting tool, but I use them as ball stylus. I'm just going to give a little bit of a push and a squeeze on the end of each petal, like that. I'm going to flick it over like so, a little squeeze there, and then I'm going to put a glob of white glue just in the centre there. Turn the cap over. There's my tweezers. Just make sure I've not got any green left on my tweezers. And I'm just going to take a little bit of that yellow, pop it in there, turn it upside down, and there you go. Beautiful little shaped, you know, no time at all. You've got that really lovely little shaped flower, and you've got that really lovely fuzzy little yellow centre, which is really pretty. So I'm just going to quickly shape a few more of these little ones, because I'd forgotten to do those ones, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, welcome back. It is a few days later, and I am finishing up my second card. Now, I don't have the first card to refer back to, because I've had to post that one, because that one was for my mum, and she lives at the opposite end of the country to me, so obviously I've had to get that one in the post. So now I'm doing one for Steve's mum. So these are the bits that I've got. I've die cut that lovely basket shape. I've done it once out of a sturdy sort of cereal box type weight card, but it's just a plain brown. And then I have coloured the back of it with the same alcohol markers that I've used to colour over the front of this one. And this one I've cut out in craft paper or craft card, but it's a bit thinner. And again, I've coloured it in with alcohol markers, and I've gone over the edges a little bit with some inks. I did press a oxide ink pad onto the die before I die cut it, so some of that ink is sort of embedded down into that wicker of the basket, and I think that looks really cute. So I will layer those two together so that I end up with a nice sturdy basket. I also printed this Happy Mother's Day on my laser printer, and then I've foiled over it with some gold foil that I've got. It hasn't completely, with this foil, I don't know whether it's just the foil, whether it's just this method of foiling. I have got a what's it called, like a Spellbinders foiling machine, but I haven't got a die that says Happy Mother's Day, because you've got to have the dies for that one. So I've done the laser printer method with this one, and it doesn't completely foiled. If you hold it in certain lights, you can see some of the black from the printing, but on the card I don't think you'll see it all that much. You'll just see the gold, and it's still quite pretty. It just gives it a slightly shabby look, sort of shabby chic look. And then I die cut it with a die, this die from my stash, which actually cuts the border and the middle piece separately, which is a little bit irritating. I wish it had a backing piece to go with it as well, but it doesn't. So I've just used a bit of paper tape on the back, and I've stuck the border and the main bit together, and then I've die cut it again twice more in this sort of pearlized gold, and I will stick those and glue those over the top. I will pull this cream layer in a little bit, because I want it all to line up perfectly. So I'll have a play about with that, and I will get those bits all glued together and layered up. I've also cut the card base. So this is the Tattered Lace Stepper card base, and like I said, in the other clip, you don't have to have a die to do this. You can do a stepper card just using your scoreboard, and there's loads and loads of videos on YouTube. If you just put in stepper card tutorial, you'll find loads of tutorials that show you how to score, you know, what score marks you need to make a stepper card. But as I'd got the die, I die cut that. I've then die cut this panel, which will go here. So I'm just going to trim that down, but I'm going to wait until I've got my card stood and I know exactly where I want it. I've also got a cutout panel. So I'm trying to think which way it goes. Like that. So I've got this sort of lacy panel, which looks really pretty along there like that. Then I've got this piece, which is going to go in there, and then the basket will sit above that. And then I have got another panel which I can put down here to make that look pretty once it's all folded, and I might even do another one of those to go on the back. And then what I did on my mum's card was I just cut a piece of card to go on there so that I could write what I wanted to write, and then I just attached that to the back of the card, so I didn't have to try and write on the card either before it was made or after it got quite bulky. So we've got those bits, and then we've also got all the beautiful flowers that we made earlier in the video. So I've got all of those sat here. I've got a few big pearls, which again I put on the other version of this card. So I'm going to get going and start putting these bits together. So to start with, I am going to take some antique linen distress ink, and I am going to go around all the edges of this fretwork. Now you've got to be careful because it is quite delicate and it would rip quite easily, and it would also sort of all bend out of shape quite easily, which obviously I don't want. But by putting just a little bit of the antique linen, it's not too in your face, but what it will do is it will just make the fretwork stand up off of the card a little bit, so that you'll just notice it a little bit more. Whereas if you just glued it down straight on top, you know, you've got that very tone on tone and it just won't stand out as much. This will still be tone on tone. It's not, you know, vibrant enough to change that sort of tone on tone look, but it will just define this piece. Now the lighting is going to change, I'm really sorry. I'm in the conservatory and the weather just does not know what it wants to do today. 1 minute it's chucking it down with rain, and the next minute the sun's out, and who knows, who knows. Okay, it's that time of day as well. It's like about 3:30 in the afternoon, so it's just before it's going to start getting dark. It's not the best time to film really, but I had a lie-in this morning because I did not sleep last night because my cat kept waking me up and my hip kept waking me up, and so I had a bit of a lie-in, and then I've cleaned the house and I've done a really nice brunch for everybody, and yeah, been busy. So I'm then going to go all the way around the edge of my card as well, and again that's just to help define and keep your eyes, or keep the eyes of the recipient where you want them to be. If you give anything a bit of a border, it just helps to stop the eyes wandering off the page, wandering off the piece. And it doesn't have to be, you know, a dark black line for a border. It can just be very subtle, tone on tone, but it just creates that sort of end point for the piece. Now I will do the edges and things as well, but I'm going to fold it first. So you can see on this that it's got certain score lines, so I know that this one folds like that, so I'm just going to put a slight fold in there, and then I know that that one is going to do the same. So I can line up all my lacy elements like so, and then just give a little bit of a finger press across the top there, and then gently go over it with my bone folder. Now for this bit, I know that this is going to end up being lower, so this piece I think I have to fold that way, like so, and then I'd fold the front one that way, and it's creating that mountains and valleys like so. So it'll end up sitting like that. So I need to do the same on this side. So up like that, and then down like that, and then I can push it all together, give it a bit of a fold like that. There we go. And there we've got the main part of our stepper card. So that's what the stepper card looks like once it's all folded. There we go. So I'm going to work just on this front piece to begin with. So I'm going to glue on my lace panel here, like so. And then I want this piece to be in here. So I'm going to mark this one because I do need to cut this one down. And now that I've got that folded, I can see. And I find it easier to be able to see the lacy bits on both sides, because that helps me line up exactly where I want that that cut to be on this side. So if I get that straight, I can see that I want it about there. So I can take that over to the trimmer and trim that. This one, it is a little bit of a pain. What I tend to do is put a bit of glue on my hand and just pat it into the glue, stick it down, and then I can always go back with like the needle nose glue bottle if I've got any bits that are sticking up after I've done that. So I'm going to do that, and whilst I'm off camera, I'm also going to layer these two bits up on top of that one to make my sentiment nice and sturdy, and I'm going to glue my basket on top of the card piece of the basket again, so that I've got that nice and sturdy. So I'll go away and do that, and then I will come back. Okay, so as you can see, I have put the filigree panel on the front there. I've also put a little one down in the bottom of here, and I've put a bit of the wood sort of effect, and that's going to be where my basket's going to sit. And then on the back I have popped another little piece of the filigree, and then I have also cut and shaded it, sort of ink around the edges, a piece of card which will just sit there, and my husband can write his message to his mum on that bit. So I'm now going to start sort of building up my card. So I did break a little piece of the filigree down the bottom here as I was putting it together, but it's okay because that's where my Happy Mother's Day is going to sit, thankfully. So that's going to cover that bit up. So to start with, I need to put my basket where I want it to be. Now I am going to use just a little dab of hot glue because I want it to sort of sit in place quite quickly, but I'm also going to put some white glue around it because I don't find that hot glue has got the longevity that I want, and things tend to fall off, and I find it quite frustrating when cards that you've spent a long time on then fall to pieces. So that's my basket sat where I want it to sit. Might be a little bit high, but it'll be okay. It'll be okay. No, it'll be fine. It's going to have to sit there now because that's what I've done. So I'm going to just open it out a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of shading just around the bottom of the basket so that it doesn't look like it's just floating in midair. So to do that, I've just taken this is a Kuretake Zig watercolour pen, a clean colour brush marker, but anything like that, a bit of watercolour pen, watercolour pencils, anything like that. A bit of charcoal would even do it. You just want to go in there and just put that little bit of shading in, and it just means that when the card stood up and all together. It doesn't look like your basket's floating in midair. It looks like it's sat on that, for me, that's supposed to be like a little bit of wooden flooring that you've just like placed your basket down on. So I'm going to start with some greenery. So I've got these lovely ferns that we did, and I'm going to pop those on. I'm not too worried about, you know, where the stems aren't sitting in the basket, because you're not going to see that once I've got some flowers in place and stuff. You won't see any of that. So I'm going to put another one of the larger ones there. And I'm just using a little bit of white glue to start with, just to sort of tack them in place. And then if I don't like them, I can move them around a bit. Now I'm going to bring in some of my flowers. I think I'm going to start with these lovely big blue ones. And maybe a couple of the smaller ones as well. And now I'm just going to sit and sort of play and find the pattern that I like, and sometimes that can take a little bit of time. I try not to overthink it too much, because that's when it ends up taking me forever, but at the same time, you know, I do want it to end up looking pretty. So somebody driving a motorbike outside. It's probably my husband, annoying the neighbours. I apologise if any of my neighbours are watching this. Not what I think they would. Right, so I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue. So sometimes I'll glue them on with white glue, but if I can pop a bit of hot glue and a flower over the top, then I'll just do that. So that looks really pretty. I like that. I need a glue stick in my hot glue gun. If I can find one. There we go. These glue sticks are supposed to be better. I've bought the Gorilla Glue ones instead of the cheap ones, so we'll find out. So I'm going to just start placing in some of my flowers. Now I don't want to cover the handle of my basket. I want it, you know, you to be able to see that it is a basket. Those there, like so. Yep. Like that. Okay. I could put another one of my daisies just in there. You can see now that the stems of the ferns are completely covered. Then I've got some little berry sprigs. And these are quite fiddly, so I am going to put these on with white glue, just because more than anything, I don't want to burn myself. So I'm just going to tuck some of these in amongst my pretty flowers. Like that. Let's find another one. Like so. Lovely. And I have got some of the sparkly ones as well. I don't know whether I want them on or not. I'll try tucking one in and see what I think. Maybe if I have a little bit less. I like things to be at different heights. I don't like everything to sort of be exactly the same height, because obviously it wouldn't be, you know, in reality, would it? Because things don't grow exactly the same sizes and stuff. And then I might put another one of these leaves up there. So that's the daisy leaves. Or it is in my world, it is anyway. There we go, like that. And then we've got, I can take one of the leaves off of little rose type ones and tuck that so that it comes out sort of downwards, like so. And then I have got some of these tiny little filler flowers as well. So I am going to put just a few because I do like that. I have to try and hot glue them and not burn myself. Yeah. I do like the variation in size. I think that sort of adds a bit of something to the project when you've got lots of different sizes of, shapes and sizes of flowers. Because if you think about, if you went and bought a basket of flowers, you would often get, a variety of different species, or whatever you want to call it. Can't think of the word. Varieties. A variety of varieties. Yeah. You can tell I've not had a good night. Can't talk plain English today. There we go. And this is all I do. I just go along and sort of, pop bits on here and there and decide just what I like. I do try not to overthink it too much. Obviously, I want it to balance, so I don't want to, put things on and make something then end up looking unbalanced. But I do like to not get too caught up in it, trying to make it too perfect, because I think sometimes then you just totally overthink it and you can't. Me personally, I really struggle to commit then to sort of sticking things down, and it ends up taking me far longer and I end up frustrated with the project. So try just to sort of go with it. It's looking so pretty. And this is why I like to have a variety of the flowers, even though, there's a good chance I won't use them all. I don't want to, once I get into it, get into actually doing this sort of decorating bit, I don't want to have to stop to go and make more flowers because I've run out of the particular kind that I want, or I end up with a bit of my card that's looking a bit sparse because I couldn't be bothered to go back and make a few extras. So I try to make more than I think I'll need for the project, because I will use them somewhere else. It's not like they won't get used. I will use them on something else. So that's all my leftovers for now. I think I like that as it is. Very pretty. The other thing you can do, which is very cute, is you can do a couple of little, so it looks like a couple of flower heads have dropped from your display. That always looks sweet. Just like that. Lovely. Now I've got my my big pearl buttons. So I'm going to start by putting that one up there. I think I might put my sentiment on, just because I've put some tape on the back of this. Just because then there's only one place I can put my sentiment. I can play with the placement of the buttons or the flatbacks a bit more. So I'm going to get my sentiment on before I put those flatbacks on, because I don't want something to end up looking off and sort of off-centered or just not quite visually pleasing to the eye because of where I end up putting the sentiment. Make sure I've got it up the right way, and then I'm going to sort of centre that one up with the wood panel, like so. Pop that one into place, and then I can sort of play a little bit more then with how I want my pearls on the other side. If I want them spread all the way down like that, if I just, I like them like that. So I'm going to stick that bit down because it's sticking up, and I don't want that in the way. I'm going to stick the top and the bottom down, and then I will stick the middle one in afterwards because I can get everything lined up better that way. There we go. There we are. This glue does seem to be grabbing better, so fingers crossed. And there we go, that's my card. I think that's really pretty. Now, what I did find with the other one that I made for my mum was that over the space of a couple of days while it was stood on the side, it started sort of sinking because of the weight of the basket. So what I did to combat that was I just put a line of glue just right at the top of the card in the crease, so that that fold can't come undone once the glue's set. Then that fold won't be able to come undone, and it's forced to stand and not open up too much, which is what you want, obviously. And that's it. I think that's a really pretty Mother's Day card, and you know, it's a little bit different. I like the fact that it's obviously, you know, really 3D. It wasn't too much to post. I think it cost £1. I think it's less than £1.50 to post it, so that's not too bad. So I posted obviously one down to my mum already. This one we can give by hand because Steve's mum only lives up the road, so we will be able to pop that one up for a socially distanced delivery on Sunday. So that's what I've created for Mother's Day. I hope you've enjoyed having a look at how I made the flowers and then how I've put all of that together in this beautiful card. If you saw embellishments on the 11th, you'll see that I showed these flowers on embellishments on the 11th, so you might have been waiting for this video so that you could see how I made them. And yeah, that's it. That's what I've made for Mother's Day. I really like it. I think it's a really pretty card, and I do love making flowers. So that's it from me for now. I'm going to go and tidy up because my craft room is a tip, and I'm going to tick this off of my to-do list. I've got some editing to go and do now so that this video can be ready to go out on Sunday. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all again very soon in another crafty video. Bye for now.